Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this really important session. Maybe the most important one in the whole ICT 2018, yeah? At least from my point of view, yeah, for sure. So what I want to talk today is, in fact, the next call we will have in cultural heritage, cultural cooperation. How does it work? So my presentation is about the work program SC6. Maybe you know about that. I will talk a little bit about the past activities we have. I will talk a little bit about VR, ER, AI, and what probably we should do next, because in fact, when we set up a work program, we want actually I would say between brackets, the real actor to give us some feedback of what we want to do in the future. So I just want to mention that G2, my unit in Luxembourg, is based in Luxembourg. So there are people in Brussels and there are people in Luxembourg. So nobody should forget that. I see my director there saying yes. I mean, it's important to mention that we are based in Luxembourg. It's a beautiful city, as you could see. And of course, cultural heritage in Luxembourg is very important. Horizon 2020. So what we have done until now, I mean, you know that the SA6, H2020 SA6 work program started nearly 5 years ago. And we did have already a few calls. And they were talking about, we started with 3D. There was a fantastic workshop yesterday about that. We did one to social network. We did done some call on virtual museum. We did talk, and it was an important question yesterday at the workshop about digital curation. I think it's important for the people working with digital objects. And then we will talk as well about semantic gap, this idea of how could we annotate object in an automatic manner. Because digitization is very important, but if there is no metadata attached to it, you know that it will be difficult to work with them or even to find them back. Altogether, from 2014 until the end, which will be 2020, we did spend about something like 100 million. So there was a question yesterday about ER, VR, and something like this. Do we want to integrate that in the cultural heritage? We will do. We will do, because in fact, we have done it already by 3D and things like this, but we want to be more immersive with that. And in fact, the next call, and I said that yesterday as well, the next call that we are preparing for the next work program that will start after 2020 will take that into account. And now we are talking about the call of today, the one that is open or will open. I don't remember exactly the date. What we want to do there is, in fact, we want to include the possible excluded in participation and inclusive. Why do we want to do that? From the beginning of SA6, which is, in fact, and you should never forget that, it is a societal challenge. What we have tried to do from the beginning is to make the cultural heritage more accessible to everybody. A very simple example is the idea of virtual museum. You could access a virtual museum from anywhere in the world. You don't have to move, and it's normally easily accessible for everybody. And that's the reason why we are trying now in this call to do something a little bit different that we are doing normally. You know, DG Connect is really ICT-oriented, technology-oriented. We are not giving up there, but we want to do something a bit different. Why do we do this? The main idea is, in fact, to integrate, and maybe I could come back on the first one. The specific challenge for the culture is to provide inclusive access. Some social cultural groups are still not sufficiently integrated in cultural heritage experience. In the SA6 work program, there was a big section on migrant. Migrant could be excluded from this part of the European Union. Migrant, well, first of all, they try to survive. And secondly, when they could participate in the life of the normal people, I mean, this will be important for them, for a kind of integration. But we are not only focusing on migrants in this call, but we are also thinking about people who are not like us. I mean, we are the one who are a bit privileged there. We have all a PC. We have all this idea of how to use it. We are also talking about people that do not have these facilities. So what we want to do with them is, in fact, to try to put a strategy for a collaborative and participative approach via communication channels such as social media platform, participatory approach, art and co-design activities. A very good example would be, in my village, we have a small museum, about a Roman museum, not a large one like you could imagine in Rome, I'm in Belgium, actually, and the Romans were there before I was there. And we have one of these small museums. And the idea would be, when they set up an exhibition or a special exhibition, a platform will be accessible for the people of the village to participate in the setup of the exhibition. We could open that also to migrants so that maybe they have the same history of us. So maybe they have also an idea of how to do that. And then through this platform, due to this tool, they will be allowed to do that. With this integration, we could imagine that they will participate a bit, at least, in the social life of their region or village. So proposals should consider both tangible and intangible heritage. This is also quite important. We are not talking only about statue or villa or whatever, but we are also talking about singing, dancing, and things like this. That is also it's part of our heritage. Researching new application and tools, and there actually you see the ICT touch. It is application and tools, ICT tools. It is not only, let's say, the social aspect. Through this tool, we should integrate the people. For a more inclusive approach, such as digital tagging of objects or co-authoring, and exactly this idea of the museum, of societal and place-based memories. So the scope, the active involvement and engagement with different groups of communities, such as migrant and other communities, at a risk of exclusion, should be promoted. There actually is the integration. Integration of people that could be excluded. We should avoid that, yeah? That's part of Europe have always welcomed migrants, and we should continue to do so. And we should also continue to integrate them in our society. Proposals should design options for this social group to review or shape both contemporary and historical content, contribute to new material or customize and personal cultural heritage and digital humanities in a meaningful and effective way. So that's the goal of it, through the platform or the tool that will be developed. I don't expect that you will create a new Facebook. But I expect to see something that looks a bit like this, that's easy to access, is fast, it's easy to use. So the idea of usability is also very important there, because the users are not, as us, specialized in the IT tools. So the scope is collaborative tool and application, should help the cultural tourism sector and cultural heritage institution, NGO, community organization, and so on. So it's not limited to a museum. It's not limited to an exhibition. It could be anything around this idea of cultural heritage. So it's quite large. It's quite large in the sense that we didn't limit ourselves there, but the main goal is, and I repeat that again, include the possible excluded through the platform or to a tool. Well, that's the general idea of the call. The budget, we have 10 million altogether, and we expect that project in this area should be between 3 and 4 million, but we don't exclude anything else. I mean, if you propose a project for 1 million, it's great. If you propose a budget for 11, it would be difficult because we have only 10. But in between that, everything is acceptable, although we recommend a funding of between 3 and 4. So we could expect to have between 4 projects selected at the end of the evaluation. The impact, the action will contribute to fostering cultural diversity and social cohesion. It's exactly what I say from the beginning, try to include the people. And to recognition of multiple identities and voice. We should not exclude anybody. It will also have a positive impact on cultural institutions. I think if you have the participation of the public before the exhibition is quite important. By attracting contribution from and boosting involvement of new audiences, we should attract new people. Not having, as I was joking before the presentation with some friends here, not having the usual suspect everywhere. And in addition, the action will provide disciplines such as computing, design, and the social science and humanities with new research tools. We should never forget that it is a social action. So it is the type of action we are looking for is a research and innovation action. So research is there, it's important, should be there. It is not an innovation action. So you need to include in your project the idea of research and innovation, both of them. So opening, 6th of November, so it's open. Closing, 14th of March next year, 5 o'clock Brussels time. Don't try to be late, or please don't be late. Could be dramatic, because we will not be able to do anything for you if you are really 5 past 5, or even 1. Now, that's the call. That's what we have done. And I just want to maybe start, because there will be 5 presentations afterwards. We have received 5 presentations that have been downloaded. Actually, when I leave Luxembourg on Monday, when I leave the office, there were 3 presentations. I did know the people, but now I have no idea of who the people are. So I have asked the technician to project the first slide, and I expect you, no, not yet. Could you come back to my slide? Could you come back? No, that one I know is me. Come back. Could you come back to my presentation? And so when the first slide will be on the screen, the person who have made the presentation or proposed the presentation just come on the stage, and we will talk about that. Okay, I'll go further. And going to this one. We are promoting through a recommendation of massive digitization of cultural heritage objects. At the moment, we could imagine, or we know that it's only around 10% of everything have been digitized. So there's still a lot of work to be done. But having said this, I always come back to my idea, I don't know, it's a kind of obsession with me, to this automatic annotation, because digitizing an object is not sufficient. We need to annotate it. And if you do, at the moment, mainly it's done by a person. It's mainly done by human. So we need one day and another to be able to do that in an automatic manner. Some people are really close to do that. I mean, Fraunhofer, for example, with the new system they use, there is a kind of tagging of the object, but really the automatic annotation remain the graal, something that need to be solved. How could we preserve? Because in fact, that's also the part of it. I mean, there is only drama could help us in this area. Everybody remember a few months ago, the Museum of Rio de Janeiro that was in fire. Everybody after that was complete, it was a complete disaster. It's a disaster for everybody in Brazil, but it's a disaster for the world. All these objects there exists only one. There is only one single object like this in a museum. If that disappears, we are losing our memory. So we need to invest in the digitization. We need to invest in the technology, because otherwise, in the case of an accident, whatever the accident is all about, I could take Palmyra, for example. I could take an earthquake, as it's happened in Italy. This will be destroyed forever. You will not see it anymore. And that's the disaster. I don't think that the packaging I'm proposing there for the castle is the idea, but we need to think about that. We really need to think about this idea of how to preserve our cultural heritage for us and for our children and grandchildren. And now this is an idea that we have for the final call of H2020. That will happen at the end of 2019. We are at the moment we do not have in Europe a kind of competence center for the preservation and conservation of our cultural heritage. What is the idea of the competence center? It's trying to create a place, virtual or real, where if I want to preserve a monument in my village, I could call, send an email, and say, how should I do that? What are the technology available that I should use to do that? Could you help me to do that? And this competence center will be a European competence center dealing with that idea, but also having in the competence center not only IT people, but architects, civil engineer for the reconstruction, archaeologists. So to have a holistic approach of this idea of the preservation of our cultural heritage. It's still work in progress. I talk about that because I need your support for that. I mean, if you think that the idea is great, so send me some email. And the idea is really going well. The final decision should be taken next year in May. Everything is, let's say, I have all the green lights. But I think it is an important part of at the end of H2020 to try to set up something like this. It will only be embryonic. It will only be the beginning of the work. But at least we start something completely different. It doesn't mean that we don't want to integrate it in this competence center, national activities, national institute or national network. But it means that somewhere there will be something like this. And I thank you for your attention. Do you have any question? Yes.
Thank you. Stelis Thomopoulos from NCSR Democritus. I have a question regarding the curation of material by the people.
Yeah.
We run a project which is nationally funded to develop such a platform, and we have on board some of the, I would consider, liberal curators from Greece that have a background in digital curation as well. And it is a struggle with them to convince them to allow this to happen. And the proposal is funded. So, and these are some of the most avant-garde. So how do you deal with that? I mean, there are certain issues there of opinion.
I would say it's not an easy task. Huh? But it is research and innovation. It's not because it's not working or it's difficult that we should stop us. I mean, we should go further than that. And I think in a project like this one, the one we do in the call, we should involve also the user and the curator of a museum, because they should work together to define the tools for the application that will be developed. I know that it's not an easy task. I know that some museum will reject this idea, or some cultural heritage part will reject this idea. But I know some people who will like it. There are museums that are really open to new technology, and they are really open to participation of people. I don't say that it is an easy task. I say it's a challenge, and we are there to relieve challenge, to go over the challenge.
Sara Damiano from University of Turin. Very technical question, provided that projects may not all address migrants Is it possible that a proposal addresses different targets? Because unprivileged people may belong to, with the same platform, may belong to different categories. It is not always easy to find a crisp classification of people, exploited people across Europe.
Yeah, if you will notice in the call, migrant are mentioned, but they are not the only one. Only the, as I said at the beginning, include the possible excluded. They could be handicapped people, they could be whatever you could think about, but there is no exclusion there. That should be a kind of paradoxal activities if we, in the inclusion project, we exclude people from the beginning. So we should not do that. Please don't do it. Yeah.
Gabriela Ruseva from Old Digital. My question is related to the role of skills and trainings and digital inclusion in this call. And I will take the example that you made with the village museum, because if we want the people from the village to actually use this platform and contribute to the design of the exhibition or whatever it could be, they actually need to have the skills to do that. And many people, especially in rural areas, but also in urban areas, they don't have basic digital skills to even turn on the computer. And 43% of Europeans don't even have, cannot even implement some basic operations like copying, pasting files, etc. So how do you see that in this call? And is it feasible and recommendable that actually, along with developing these IT solutions, there is a big important focus on making sure that at least in some piloting way, some people are trained to use them?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was mentioning from the beginning usability. The tool should be, I agree with you. It's not an easy task. Again, usability, it's really important. And by usability, I would mention that user or possible user should be involved from the beginning of the project. You should not design something or tools only by IT people, leaving them the whole liberty to do whatever they want. User should be there from the beginning. Through pilot, through testing, through a community, through usability testing. So it is important to involve them. I know that is not an easy task. If you, my mother have never used a computer, and she probably will never use a computer. But we should not avoid, due to that, to forget this project. We should go further than that and try to involve them better. I don't think my mother will change his mind. But anyway, some will do. Some will do. So if we succeed, instead of having 41% of the population participating in this kind of project, if we go to 42, it's already a success. So we should have that in mind, but please involve the user from the beginning.
Werner Beiler from Millennium Research. So my question is a bit of a follow-up of the first question on the target groups. So whether the expectation is to be as broad as possible and have something that works, a solution that works for as many groups as possible, or like this goes a bit to the usability aspect as well, have something that is tailored to the specific needs of the groups. Is there a preference on broadness or specificity?
My preference go for a project that will be successful. The idea is, in fact, there is no definition there. There is no limit. If it is only my point of view, if I would have to design a project like this, I will try to aim for a community. I will not try to solve the problem of everybody once. Forever, I did like projects which are really focused on something. But you should also imagine that it could be extended afterwards through another kind of population.
So I have a question. when you talk about the stakeholder to involve, you have many possible different stakeholders like cultural tourism sector, cultural heritage institution, NGOs, community organization, and so on. And I understand that we have some project with migrants, ICT solution, not in the cultural heritage sector, but in other sector. And we involve NGOs, community, PAs, public administration. However, when you talk about the impact, it's very specific. You've impact on cultural institutions by attracting. So this means that cultural institution must be part of the consortium. Or is it possible, because I can see a project with migrants involving, for example, the non-material cultural heritage or the cultural heritage in a city without cultural institutions in there. But however, the impact is very specific. So is it a must?
Listen, the idea is, as I said that already, involve the user. I'm not talking only about the end user, which could be anybody, but I'm talking about the institution, cultural institution that will use the tool or benefit from the tool. So I don't want to say that it's only museum, but you should involve both users, the end user, you and me, and actually a cultural institution, because they are the only one who could be there from the beginning to define actually or to shape your project. Yeah?
Thinking specifically about social inclusion, you know, in many cases, that kind of job is done by very small and local institutions. Would you consider some kind of sub-granting scheme, or would there be any way to reach out beyond partners? I mean, I'm thinking, of course, you can have 10, 15 partners, yeah. But if you want to reach a large number of other institutions, would sub-granting be an option? Would other kind of networks be envisioned? Are there any ideas on that issue?
No. It's up to you to define the project. I mean, if I say something, it could be misinterpreted. If I don't say anything, it can't be misinterpreted. And therefore, I prefer not to reply to your question. I say involve the user from the beginning. And try to have the possibility to extend it. And by doing this, maybe you reach another kind of network. I just want to not take too much time, because we have 5 presentations. These 5 presentations will last for 5 minutes each. So, and afterwards, I'm sure there will still be some questions. So if you allow me, I will go for the first presentation. Would you agree? Okay. And there's the first one. Who is this? Who did that? Who did commit that? Nobody?
Not here.
Ah. He canceled his trip.
Yeah, but I will mention, I think my presentation will be there. I will mention he canceled his trip.
Okay. Let's go to the next one then. By the way, this presentation is available on the website. Please have a look on it. Huh? Are you there? Great. Please take my desk or the desk.
Hello, everyone. I am Patricia Castillo, and I come from Eurecat, which is a technology and research center based in Barcelona, with headquarters there. I'm going to present 2 different capacities that we can bring, to consortium working in this topic. Just for a bit of context, this is what we do. We are a large organization. We work in a lot of areas, but for this particular session, I'm focusing on the audiovisual technologies. The first strand of capacities relates to audio technologies. As I mentioned yesterday in a session, when we speak of cultural heritage, we consistently hear about computer graphics and computer vision and digitization of features. But we consistently miss the audio perspective. So we at EURECAD, we have the capacities for this, right? I'm not going to get very technical, but what if we could preserve the architectural acoustic patrimony of the heritage sites and the sounds of Europe, the festivals, how they hear, how they sound? What if we could put all of this in open databases for preservation, but also for reuse, not just to give access to the citizens, but also give access to the cultural and creative industry so that they can build upon that and recreate and generate new experiences. And then how can we, what if we could innovate also in the delivery of these experiences? And this can be joined with immersive virtual reality experiences and also binaural. You can now experience 3D sound with your headsets. So we want to, give relevance to the audio and the acoustic sound heritage of Europe. On the other hand, we also have our computer vision capacities. This started really as a computer vision problem, how we find images in the web using the text embedded on them, right? It's a metadata problem. So what we found doing our tests and developing our deep learning approaches is that we can extract, we can understand at some point semantic representations of the of things that are already in the web. We are already creating memories, and they are all in the social platforms. So, for example, we started, browsing what we can learn from Barcelona from Instagram, right? So we started filtering and creating the models and creating the algorithms. And when you live in Barcelona, you can fairly say that our search in neighborhoods is quite accurate. You can relate Poblenou with a district that has a hype. And yes, it is all about new buildings and nice flats. And Gracia has this underground kind of artist spirit. But the fun thing is that when you live in Barcelona, you would never, ever say that churros with chocolate and paella is what is your city about. So this kind of learning, there is a semantic idea that contrasts with each people, each culture, about your city, about your places, and this is underexploited, and we don't understand it, and it's right there to exploit. And this is probably the cultural heritage of the future, So what we want is I would like to present these capacities for a consortium working in this, because there is an existing, inexhaustible, and possibly underexploited source of collaborative, already inclusive, diverse, spontaneous, and non-supervised semantic representations of European tangible and intangible heritage that are already shaping both contemporary and history contents. So we would be willing to explore this with any of you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
that's it for me.
Okay, the next one.
Hello. So I'm from IRCAM, and I will both present technologies and networks that could be useful for this call. So a few words about IRCAM. Actually, we are both in the cultural world and in the technology. IRCAM has been founded on that idea of putting together artists and technologists, and we are related to Centre Pompidou in Paris. And we depend on Ministry of Culture, but also on research institutions. So we work with CNRS and Sorbonne University, which are some of the biggest research structures in France. And we have a lab with about 150 persons. We work in various aspects related to music and sound, signal processing, computer science, etc. And we're also very active in licensing and making products, etc. So currently, we are also very active in EU projects. Currently, we have 10 ongoing. And also in technology transfer. So here are the recent licenses and subcontractings that we have with industries, both with small companies. So we have also a number of startups and big groups. So now, concerning this specific call, so first, I completely agree with the previous speaker. So we want also to promote sound, preservation of sound. And so we develop technologies for that. So the product you see is a product that was just issued and which has already prices, which is a product for people doing sound in cinema, so in Hollywood, etc. And we developed recently a technique, a high-resolution technique that analyzes the space of a room. So it's called 3D convolution. That is normally you just have a mono convolution. You extract the room impulse response. In this case, we have a network of microphones that will analyze all the sound in 3D, and you can reproduce it. We already did it 2 years ago in a concert. We captured the sound of the San Lorenzo Church in Venezia, and we replayed it in a concert. So it works in real time already. And of course, it must be enhanced, and so, but we have basically the technology for that. And after, you can render it in any kind of setup, so binaural and advanced multi-loudspeaker systems. I will not come into details. Another important aspect, and Albert Gauthier mentioned that, we must address people who don't use computers, who don't even know how to use them. And so gestural man-machine interaction is very important, and we also developed innovative technology for that. For instance, you can see in the startup exhibition, there is a company called Plux, and we developed a very small board of gesture capture that communicates in Wi-Fi, and then Wi-Fi, sorry, and then you can do some machine learning on that in order to recognize gesture and apply them to human-machine interaction. So we have various prices also for that. And then an important aspect is also a collaborative aspect. So we also developed some collaborative situations with people just having smartphones and just doing some gestures with them, and so we can elaborate a collective situation. So in that case, it's a music situation or multimedia situation. It has been already the subject of a project funded by the French National Agency of Research. And last thing, also, I'm coordinator of the STARTS Residencies project. So STARTS is an initiative of the European Commission that promotes the collaboration of artists with ICT projects. And in this, so we organize 45 residencies of artists with any kind of ICT project. And the goal is that the artist will bring an innovative view, a fresh view to the technology through a specific artwork or situation. And a very interesting outcome that we see is that artists in particular are involved in setting up a situation for community involvement, because sometimes engineers don't know how to do it. And so artists can define such a situation. And so this could be also a possible interesting contribution. Also, we organize the exposure of all this artistic work at Centre Pompidou in a high bandwidth event that I'm also organizing. So this could be also a place for, I would say, presenting the results. So that's it for what I wanted to present, and this is my contact. Oh, sorry. It disappeared, but it's on the web. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Is the time? Do we have another one, I suppose? Yeah? Is it yours?
Yes, mine.
You want to present the first one?
No, I don't think I am, able to present another company, but I will mention them in my presentation, so I think that's fine. Do I have something to move here? Huh? Yeah. Next. Yeah. So I'm representing here not a technology company. I'm representing a trade association bringing the kind of materials that can be used in technology and for the type of project that are presented by the EU Commission, so it says images. And when I mean images, it's moving and still images, both, and it's in all kind of areas. So we have stock, which is the kind of images you find in advertising, kind of modern stuff. There is artistic imagery, lots of cultural heritage. I mean, all pictures, all archives and fine arts, that's what belongs to cultural. And news as well, news agencies. Yeah. So, I mean, quite obviously, images are the type of material which is used in as the material that can be used for testings. I know this just because people contact me about this. That's why I'm sitting here. So it's really I represent an industry which is a blend of creative content and of innovative technology like visual recognition, IPR management, and artificial intelligence. This industry, because of this connection with technology, is faced to a lot of challenges, which are all listed here. And some of them, we met them in, like the semantic gaps, and I already sent some of them have been met in several EU projects already. Sorry. And at the same time, we can present the solutions. Right, in terms of, for example, IPR, the management of IPR. It's a problem that always happened when you have to deal with cultural heritage. So we would be the experts for this. It doesn't come from a technology company. They usually don't know this. What about connecting to technology? What are the uses that you can? How can you use artificial intelligence? What are the practical uses? Why do you need it? It's just a couple of examples here. So we were already in a couple of EU projects. I'm just mentioning the two largest ones where we were involved in. We're working also with some universities, a university and others which are not funded by the EU. So these are the issues that were handled in these projects. So this is, it's not like I'm just coming here alone as a visual. We have also very large networks. Meta belongs to this network, the company that didn't show the presentation. Also, actually, EURECAT, which just did a presentation today, also belongs to these networks. We've been working with Quant. We've been working with the University of Heidelberg on economic impacts of the use of technology, on the evolution of the market. We've been working with the University of Lausanne on how technologies has disrupted creativity. This is not a EU-funded project, So here, this is a slide regarding Meta, right? So it shows all the issues they've been dealt with. They deal with cultural heritage, with stock and publishing, and with industry and research. For us, they are a partner in what we do. They provide solutions to the publishing industry and to the picture industry in terms of archival systems. And their ideas, their vision is to connect all this different industry together in one platform. And so as picture industry, and because we know each other very well and we connect all the different fields, we've been working together on solutions. And then EURECAT, so I don't have to say anything because you've seen a full presentation before and what they can do. Oops. Yeah, so exactly. So you can have the time to read it. Yeah, so which calls? Yeah, so we identified 2 calls here, and I'm sorry it's not working here. You're probably very curious. This one, well, actually there was a possibility to do a presentation. To be very honest, we've been more interested in the second call, but there was no opportunity to upload any presentation on this. But the second call is very interesting. Yeah, I have to say it here, so that's why I thought, okay, we'll you know, I upload the presentation for this one. I'm sorry, but I had to find a slot because it's you know, this is really the type of stuff that we are interested in also as users of technology. You know, is what's the impact of it? Yeah, what can we do with it, right? So, okay, well, anyway, you have everything, and on the last slide, you have my contacts here if you have any other question. Thank you.
That's really taking any opportunity to make a presentation. Well done. Do we have another one? Although, when I see your presentation, you could participate in 13 our call as well. I mean, it's well fitted for the call.
Can you go to the first slide, please?
Okay.
Since I'm the last one, I'll try to be concise. I'm Steli Samopoulos. I'm from the Integrated Systems Laboratory, the Institute of Informatics and Telecommunications of the National Center for Scientific Research, Democritus, in Athens, Greece. I just want to say, because I don't know if how much time I'll have. I know I have 5 minutes, so how much I can cover. You can find a lot of information on our Vimeo channel. It's listed in the slide, and it has basically a lot of the stuff that we have developed over the course of the years in the area of digital heritage and beyond. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the capabilities that we have, and if I have time, just discuss a few ideas or experience that we have. As I mentioned earlier, we are working currently on developing a platform for allowing digital curation of both professional curators and the public. Is a national funded project, and will be interested in talking about in the context of the upcoming call. So you can see here different examples of the quality of and the abilities of visual representations on different domains in health application, edutainment, exercise, gaming, and cognitive skill training. In terms of cultural heritage, we have developed a platform that allows for interactive experience design, remote virtual reality tours. You can see here the full reconstruction of the Palace of Knossos in Crete, which is a monumental task by itself, as well as in situ AR-guided tours, and the concept of digital immersive cultural environments as the background for developing automatic narrations and digital curations. We also work on production design for audiovisual narratives, from the pre-production script, concept design, storyboarding, etc., to production animation pipelines. Here you can see some concept ideas and SketchUps for production. We recently had and launched last May the Journey of Ariadne, which used basically digital material created in the context of the virtual reality guided tour that I showed you previously in the Palace of Knossos, on an original script and idea with original music to create this fantastic imaginary journey of a little girl in the space of discovery. We also try to apply the digital in education and for public awareness through summer science workshops and intensive courses to create the new generation of digitally educated kids, as well as bringing the virtual reality into the curriculum of schools and other environments such as migrant environments through this concept of archaeological workout workshop where material that were developed in the virtual reality space is translated in different languages such as Farsi, Arabic, English, Greek, etc. And in a multicultural environment, you can see on the left-hand side bottom picture a migrant from the island of Lesbos participating in this workshop, and the response was extremely positive. So in other events as well. We also have the capability, because we are an ICT lab, to create immersive environments for VR and AR application, multisensory interaction, multimodal user input with a tangible user interface, motion capture, EEG for games that span a whole gap from e-health, such as ADHD, a game for ADHD children or children with ADHD syndrome, to action games and educational. We have developed quite a bit of expertise on projection mapping with immersive narration and the end of it. Okay, all right, etc., etc. And this goes on and on. I just want to finish with that, which are ancillary capabilities from simulation, modeling of human behavior, etc., in case this is needed. And these are my coordinates, okay? All right, I didn't abuse the time, did I? And it was 5 minutes. Okay, thank you.
All right, we are at the end of this presentation. Do you still have any questions? Yes, please. One is coming there. Don't run, don't run.
The question, I'm a bit worried about the keyword digital humanities, tools for digital humanities, because digital humanities typically involves the kind of top-level, top-down categories that are a bit in contrast with the idea of bottom-up curation involving users. So what do you mean for impact tools for digital humanities? Thanks.
I will be very simple, don't worry. It's a very nice answer, no? Don't worry, be happy.
Thank you, Albert. My name is Gerard Kennedy from Enterprise Ireland. With reference to the cultural heritage competence centres you were talking about.
That's the idea. You are in the S6 committee or not?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just asking a question basically related to that.
Yeah.
Is this okay?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the idea. It has been presented to the committee a few months ago. The committee makes some comments about that. And we have integrated in this call, the future call, all the remarks of the committee. And the idea, we have to resubmit the text now. And the next meeting that will take place in January, I think, we will discuss again the text.
Okay. I was just wondering if you might have any ideas at this stage about what instrument you will be...
Oh, that will be a CSA.
Okay.
That will be a CSA, yeah,
okay.
Completely. There is no research there is no innovation. What we want to do is, in fact, put together people.
Okay.
I must say that I discussed about this center with a few people already during this ICT Vienna, and I got a lot of enthusiasm about that until now. I think it is a great idea because it's not existing really at the moment. There are something, ICRON, which is based in Rome, do a similar thing than that, but really for the world. And what we want to create there is something really for Europe, helping Europeans to preserve our cultural heritage, which is in fact really important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? If not, then first of all, thank you so much to be there. Thank you so much for your future proposal. I hope you will do. And I wish you best of luck with your proposal, and also enjoy ICT 2018 in Vienna. Thank you.